episode of the show is brought to you from the salesman.org HubSpot studio. On This Week in Sales, we're going to be taking a look at what Omnichannel means for sales professionals, software to track sales commissions, conversational commerce, and much more. My name is Will Barron, founder over at salesman.org, and joining me on this week's episode, on every episode, the sales to my enablement, sales legend, Victor Antonio. How's it going, sir?
To my enablement. That's pretty good, man. I love that. I'm doing good. How about yourself, Will?
I'm good. I've got a piece of paper here with some other alternatives. I'll do one each week. I've got the whipped to my cream, the pod to my cast, the cold to my email or call, the customer relationship to my management. Victor, this is the new 5-minute intro to the show. I'm just going to run through one of these each week. I'll get rid of that for now.
That's cool. Very creative, man. Take on the creative scale.
I'm excited to chat with you this week, mate. There's some good topics, right?
I think so, man. Are you going to kick it off? Let's do it.
Let's jump into some sales news. So this is from McKinsey, and I think we've covered some of these data points before, but I don't think we've ever credited them to McKinsey. So this is an article which you can find over at thisweekinsales.com. It's from mckinsey.com. It's entitled Omnichannel in B2B Sales, the new normal in a year that's been anything but. So some of the points from this article that was basically based on research over the past couple of years, 2/3 of buyers prefer remote human interactions or digital self-service. We've kind of covered this.
Stop there. Let's give that a big pause, exclamation point. For all you out there who've been whining about remote selling, virtual selling, shut up. The numbers are in. Mm-hmm. No more excuses. Let's sell virtually.
And I prefer it as well. I don't want, if I don't have to speak with someone in person, book a meeting room, have them come over. It's a pain in the ass. I'd rather just jump on a Zoom call. What can we do in person, Victor? Really, I know there's kind of edge cases here that we can't do over a Zoom call, that we can't do on a phone call.
I mean, one of the things you can do while you're there is that I always like to highlight the difference between narrowcasting and broadcasting. Narrowcasting is what we see through the screen. And so I can only see what's on that posted stamp on my screen right now, right? Like through Zoom. But when I'm there in the environment, I'm broadcasting. I can actually read more of the terrain, more of the environment, people who are off screen. So you lose some of that intelligence, but you counter that with the ability to be with more people and not waste so much time on the road. Then we're back to that again.
Let me ask you this. Would you rather remote sell, but you've got the internet to do your research, to uncover other people to speak within the account, to do whatever, send content ahead of time? Or would you rather have no internet access? I don't know why the internet would disappear. The internet's disappeared, but you can visit people in person. What do you think, which scenario do you think you'd be a more successful salesperson?
Former. And by the way, even if you add the internet to face-to-face, I'll still take the former. I'd rather do it virtually. I mean, on occasion, we want to get out and travel, but I think it should be the exception, not the rule.
For sure. Okay, so a few more points in this article. 8 in 10 B2B leaders say that Omnichannel is as or more effective than traditional methods. Is that fair?
Man, I'm loving these data points because it's something I think you and I have talked about obviously in the past, and we feel, but when somebody quantifies it for us, we're like, aha, there it is. Part 2, cut your whining. Let's go sell virtually.
and I've not got a good way to articulate this, other than to link this to how a lot of advertising works, which is just impression. This is apparently, I've not read any studies into this, but I've read a book that can come to this conclusion. This is a lot of the reason why kids love their parents, because you see them impression all of the time over and over, so you form that bond. Well, I guess we should define omnichannel selling or omnichannel marketing in that you're not just cold calling someone, having another meeting call, and then hopefully selling on the back of it. You can message them on LinkedIn, you can email them, you can go visit them in person if you like, you can send them content. Hopefully you're intertwined with your company's marketing so you can track whether someone visits your website, if they sign up for a piece of content, if they consume the content. That's what omnichannel is, right? Well, omnichannel is exciting for me as a salesperson because I'm getting these impressions over and over and over. I don't have to cold call someone, kind of just grab hold of them and give them some kind of tease just to get the mind share for 3 minutes to book the next call to then try and do the same. I can attack them essentially from all angles. So when B2B leaders say that omnichannel is as or more effective than traditional methods, I can't help but think that has to be true.
I'm not going to argue with that. The thing is, again, we've talked about this ad nauseum, is that because of the pandemic, people's mindset has shifted from virtual being what, to yeah, it's acceptable, right? I don't know if I put it in here, but like I don't think I did, but like Zoom's numbers are still going up, as far as their revenue. So that means that people are using the system. So all of a sudden, it's become a verb, right? Like Zooming. You Google it, you Zoom it. So I think we're there.
And on that point, this data point goes on to say, a sentiment that has grown sharply throughout the past year. So it's now 8 in 10 B2B leaders. Last year, it was only 54% at the beginning of the pandemic who said that Omnichannel is more effective or as effective as traditional.
Wow, that's a big one. That's huge. That's moving the needle. In a year, that's moving the needle.
Because a year's nothing, right? Some of this stuff usually takes 10, 20 years to translate, especially at scale if you're in the enterprise.
I agree. This is a great data point, man. I love that.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one then. The next data point. B2B budget projections indicate a willingness to spend as well. Despite ongoing market volatility, 6 in 10 respondents plan to maintain or grow their operating expenditure in the next 5 years. Now, I thought this was a bit of an obvious one, right? Because in 5 years' time, the landscape's going to be totally different. So if 6 in 10 people, buyers are expanding, wanting to spend more, that's common sense, right?
Yeah, but I also wonder, underlying that as well, or undergirding it, is the fact that their costs are dropping because people are not traveling, people are working from remotely, so therefore I don't have to pay for leasing in the building. In other words, their other expenditures are going down. They're like, hey, what do we do with this extra money? Let's spend it somewhere because we need to drive that traffic.
Have you seen any data, I've never considered this until this moment, on companies becoming more profitable throughout the pandemic? So perhaps turnover revenue is down, but profits are up.
Yeah, I haven't seen any data, but I did tell you about the one battery company I worked with. Their sales dropped 10%, but their costs went right through the floor. So their profit margins were that much greater. By the way, I've heard this story many times. I'm sure you have as well. So it's happening.
For sure. And I know in my own little business over at salesman.org, right? Every maybe quarter, definitely every year I do a spring clean, and instantly we become way more profitable by reducing costs as opposed to driving revenue. Revenue just goes up almost in a straight line, unfortunately. I would like that hockey stick, but we just have this straight line growth in download numbers, revenue, and all that good stuff. But I know for me as a small business owner, cutting costs is the quickest way to increase profitability, which is what we're here for, profit, cash left at the end of the day. So it's got to be having an impact on the market, some of these changes. And the final point from this article over at McKinsey.com, hybrid sales reps will soon become the most common sales role, with Omnichannel established as the new buying norm. 64% of B2Bs, small businesses, I guess, intend to increase the number of hybrid sellers over the next 6 months. Again, I guess common sense. If the whole of the market's shifting that way, you've got to take action, right?
I love it, man. Hey, by the way, the point you made before was really good about you focus on cutting costs. I often think that that's a point that should be emphasized, that if you have a product or service, then one of the things you should focus or at least lead with is how I can save a company's expenditures as opposed to helping them drive revenue. So I think that's a good way of looking at it. But the numbers are incredible. I go back to the second bullet point here that the sentiment has grown sharply from 54 to 83% since last year. That is that is a stunning number. Pause, replay, listen to it again. I mean, that's a stunning number. Well, that's a good study. That's a good find.
Let's twist this on its head. As a sales leader, Victor, what would hold you back? That 16% or whatever the number is left over. What would make you want to just hold back for the moment and stay with what has worked in the past? Is there anything that would make you want to stay?
I think it's market dependent, but I think certain customers, that especially large customers, I think you got to go touch them once in a while. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
You got to go out there and you make the connection and just reaffirm the relationship. So I think maybe that's why they're holding back that last, 10 to 15 percentage points, saying, you know what, I still think you need to touch them.
Yep.
What do you think?
That's a fair point, but I guess Omnichannel includes face-to-face meetings as well, right? It's all channels. There's no reason why we should exclude that if we know that our biggest customer, our best logos, whatever it is, they appreciate that check-in in person every 6 months or whatever it is to feedback reports or data and that side of things. So yeah, I there's no reason other than people just being stubborn. Or I guess the flip side is if what you're doing is working right now. If you just got a team of people on the floor cold calling like 1983, and profitability's there, the revenue's there, the dials are getting through, then maybe I'd be hesitant to change. But other than that,
Yeah.
get
I mean,
with
you
it.
look at you look at some of these companies like Chris Beal's company. What's it called again?
Connect and Sell.
And the fact that that's all they do, right? Just get connections, get people on the phone. So I think, before I forget to mention, when they talk about omni-channel versus traditional, well, what is traditional? Because even the definition of traditional has transitioned, right? Traditional used to be just getting your car with your yellow pages, if you're that old, you can remember that, and driving around, right, a route. Then we started using the phone. Then we started using email. So one could argue the phone and email really falls under traditional as well. So I really think they're trying to highlight face-to-face versus non-face-to-face here. That's kind of how I read that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's an element here of content marketing, of sharing content at scale, of social selling using LinkedIn that didn't exist 5 years ago. Physically, we couldn't have done that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And you're right. All this will become the norm eventually once we get over
it'll
this.
Be traditional.
Once brands stop trying to sell us on digital transformation and consultancies and even sales trainers, and maybe even you and I, as we're inadvertently doing it right here, as well.
Right.
Once all these buzzwords disappear, it just becomes the new normal, doesn't it?
And then we'll just start calling it selling again,
Yeah.
all over as big as. All right. I want to talk about a company called QuotaPath. I'm always looking for those rare birds out there. QuotaPath raises $21.3 million in an Insight led partners round out of some company called Insight Partners, led round to help sales teams better track commissions. I found this interesting, Will, because you know me, I'm all about how do you get paid. But I want to go through this, and then I got a question for you, okay? And maybe the audience can kind of chime in also. So AJ Bruno, God, love that name already. Evetts and Eric Heydenberk founded QuotaPath with the mission of helping companies build and scale high-performing, motivated growth teams. Talk about a vanilla mission statement. There it is. Like that could fit like a million companies. Yeah, of course. The startup said it gives teams a way to streamline the commission process and avoid inaccurate budgets, incorrect payouts, and, quote, unhappy sales reps due to poor sales commissions, planning, reporting, and administration. I'm going to stop here. Is this really an issue?
So are you familiar with the social media site Reddit?
Yes, I am.
Have you ever been on Reddit, reddit.com/r/sales?
No.
So it's a sales community on there. I think there's 150,000 salespeople on it. And regularly, people talk about not getting paid. I've done this work, new sales manager, they changed the rules, they've pulled the rug from out underneath me. I've done incredibly well this quarter because of this loophole, bug, issue in the marketplace. And my manager's saying, hey, no, we're going to cap you here. So I think it does come up regularly now this is the issue. It comes up regularly from a salesperson's, our audience's perspective.
Right.
But they're not the ones buying the product, are they here?
No. Yeah, I mean, I guess the way I was raised in selling, if I can say it that way, is that every year we signed a contract, like literally signed a contract. Here's how everything's paid. Here's your quota. You accept the quota. Here's your territory. And it was very well defined what you'll get paid out, what you want. So we always had a contract. And maybe I'm taking it for granted that other companies function the same way. Maybe that's where my shortfall is on understanding here. Could that be it?
It could be that. And then what is a contract? Are you really going to go to court with your employer? I mean, in the UK, we have, it might be some in the States, I don't know, we have what's called small claims courts. So anything under kind of like 10, 20, 30 grand, you go to small claims court. You basically just sit down and a judge goes, that's nonsense, get out, pay this, pay that. So you might go to small claims court, but it's still time. You're still going to, there's pressure on you as a salesperson not to like ruin that relationship with the company you work for. You don't want to become that person who's always complaining or taking your company to you. And you should do. You've got the rights to. So
sure.
I don't know how effective a contract is from the individual side.
I mean, it's a contract. I think a more accurate phrase would have been an agreement or a memorandum of understanding, right? Mm-hmm. Something that says, hey, you agree. And so companies, we've never had a disputed, in the companies I've worked, we've never had disputed agreements, because the company knew that if you didn't pay your salespeople leave and they take their customers with them.
Yeah, but have you only ever worked? I've only ever worked for great companies. Have you ever worked for a bad company that might have an idiot sales manager who might play games?
Yeah, not another. Yeah, yeah. I got it in my head now. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm thinking back now. I'm gonna have to. Okay, okay. That helped me shift. I thought of one immediately. I go, okay, remember that small company? I go,
Well,
yeah, I remember that small company.
whatever company Victor decides to or doesn't decide to say right now has nothing to do with me. No litigation
No,
this way.
I'm not gonna mention their name, but you're right because it was a small company. So I can see where might be helping small companies. Let me continue with the article. It says through real-time CRM integration with Salesforce, HubSpot, Close.com, sales reps are able to glean more insight into earnings and quote attainment. Quote, with QuotaPath, a sales team can forecast more earnings and create more goals around what they need to do or want to do and connect their goals to the bottom line of the company. I get that. I don't have a problem. Any issue there? I think that's pretty straightforward. But
what does this do that the CRM doesn't do?
I guess this is also what I wanted to ask you. Isn't this already in the CRM?
I might be mistaken, but I know HubSpot does some of this.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm almost sure Salesforce does it. I mean, if they can do complicated CPQ, which is, what is the cost, price, and quote, I'm sure they can do commission structures.
Sure, but maybe it's a plugin or it's a separate thing that you've got to buy. And if this is slightly cheaper, if this is more suited for small businesses or something, maybe that's the angle. I'm not sure the angle here, but there must be one to get the funding.
When I look at somebody like this company that's gotten QuotaPath, $21.3 million in funding, that tells me they don't want to be a standalone application, or they do want to be a standalone application. They just happen to also integrate within the CRMs because they want to play nice, right? But when you got that much money going into a company, I would think they're trying to create something big here. So maybe they see a market we don't see. What was interesting in the article, this AJ Bruno quoted, with 10.5 million salespeople in the US, this is a very large market. Now, it's interesting that two things with that statement. With 10.5 million salespeople in the US, this is a very large market. One, he's telling me how many salespeople are in the market, but is he also telling me indirectly, it could be a she for all I know as well, is he or she also saying that's who we're targeting? We're not targeting companies, we're targeting the actual salespeople.
Well, that'd be a dumb thing to do because salespeople don't have budget.
Yeah, so they wouldn't do that. By the way, were you aware that in the US we had 10.5 million salespeople? Did you know that was the number?
Yeah, there's a massive post on Quora.com, QUORA. For people who are perhaps less familiar with my content and new to This Week in Sales, I'm terrible at spelling. Atrocious. So if you see me trying to visualize the letters in my head in the air in front of me, that's what's going on here. Victor jumped in and saved me. So there's a massive post, and I'll link it in the show notes for this episode over at thisweekinsales.com, and it goes through demographics, countries, top kind of like 15, 20 countries, a number of sales reps. And so globally, it's like obviously hundreds of millions. But somewhat familiar with that number. Does that number surprise you? Does it shock you?
I just never really thought about it, Will. And so, by the way, this article came from TechCrunch. It was written by Marianne Acevedo. And I also, in that article, there was a link in there to the Bureau of Labor Statistics here in the U.S. And they had the number more like at 13.5 or 13.7, something like that. Two things were interesting. One is that a lot of these salespeople were retail sales.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. And second, they also broke it down by percentage of where they reside, and the biggest city I think New York had 4.5% of the salespeople total, and so it broke down the top 10 states in the U.S. So if you're a marketing person looking to target salespeople and sell to salespeople, these would be the top 10 markets to go after. So it was an interesting article. Like I said, I never really thought about how many salespeople do you think are in the UK?
If there's 60 million, right, people in the UK, I would say.
That's a lot of sales.
3 million, because it might be 3 million salespeople, but 2 million of them are salespeople who are selling shoes to people who don't really want to engage with a salesperson in a shop.
Gotcha.
Not what we're talking about here of the complex B2B sales professional, the legends that are watching this right now.
Right. It's a different market. So anyway, it's an interesting data. Check it out. So we put both articles, TechCrunch and the Bureau of Labor Statistics. If you can believe the government, there's your data.
I'm not taking the bait there, Victor, because we've got a hard stop at a certain point, and we're not going down that. That's a conversation. You should lead with that in an episode, and we'll just do a conspiracy theory episode of. I tell you what I watched the other day. I think it was 1992. It was recorded, so it wasn't the original one. It's called JFK, the film. Have you seen it?
Okay. This not Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner, yeah.
Yeah, I see that. It's a great movie.
I watched it today. If half of the stuff that's in that film is true,
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
The US is crazy. Crazy.
Yeah. What I really loved is if you've watched it, but for those who haven't watched, if you watch that film, the accents for that part of the country was just dead on. Really? If you listen to old JFK or his Robert Kennedy speeches, and you listen to those voices, you're like, this is scary. Costner nailed it, man. I think he's one of the greatest actors.
Yeah. What else has he been in? That's a silly question to ask. I can't think of what else he's been in off the top of my head.
Well, Dances with Wolves was what made him popular. The Whitney Houston one, I think, was what is it? I forgot the name of the movie, but the Whitney Houston one, the Gatekeeper. Oh God, I'm screwing this one up. Oh man, now that's gonna mess me up. All right, you go to the next topic.
I don't feel bad about not knowing that one because I was probably about because I was like 7 when The Bodyguard came out. Okay, well, let's move on to the next topic here, and this is from martechseries.com. It's entitled cm.com, incredible domain name. cm.com recognized as a major player in the 2021 IDC MarketScape for the worldwide communication platform as a service market. Now, cm.com seems like a cool product. We'll talk about that in a second. But something that I wanted to discuss with you, Victor, was, have you heard of Communication Platform as a Service, CPaaS? Have you come across this acronym before?
No. But everybody's bastardizing the as a service. Mm-hmm. I came across one called Call Center as a Service. I'd never heard that one.
But it's just software as a service. Why do you need to? I understand the why you would want to create your own acronym, because then you own it, right? Just like I always call a vacuum cleaner a Hoover, and Hoover's a brand. And you use an example of this earlier on. Google, you Google things. What you're doing is an internet search. So I understand the premise. I think it's famously talked about in the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. Have you read that?
This is something Tom Green.
I'm not sure.
Something Green, yeah. I think I've read that.
Incredible book. I highly recommend it to the audience, even for salespeople.
The Power of Law of Powers, or something about power, which I think was one of his best books.
Oh, totally different order. Totally different author. He's 48 Laws of Power is a great book. He's got a great book on seduction, which can work in the marketplace. It's not just sexual seduction. That's a great book. I think it's got a book called The 50th Law with 50 Cent as well. I've not read that one. Apparently that's really good. No, the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing, I think it's something Reese. But I'll link it in the show notes. One of the immutable laws of marketing is when you go into a market, you want to own a section of it, and you want to have that section essentially named after you. So you don't want to go in and create a vacuum cleaner because you compete with all these different vacuum cleaners. You want to create the best vacuum cleaner if you've got a dog, the best vacuum cleaner if you've got no fingers. The best vacuum cleaner, whatever.
How your brain works is amazing, but go ahead, go on.
It's just visualizing it. So anyway, I'll tell you that's my train of thought there. But I love this idea of CRM.com because they're using this law of marketing, right? And they're going down this route of conversational customer experiences. They are a communication platform just for conversations. And I was like, well, what's the difference between that and Zoom? What's the difference between that and Skype? Well, they are doing what the step process is: engage customers, expand your market reach, automate customer service, which is probably a topic in its own right, personalize your message, and then monetize conversations. What I wanted to get into, Victor, was, is this replacing salespeople here? If we go through these steps of the process.
First of all, Will, let's look at this sequence here, because I know the audience can't see it, and maybe in the actual video we'll put the graphic up.
Sure.
Step 1, engage with customers. Duh. Right?
No, but that, all this is done on one platform, Victor. That's why I think this is cool.
What?
So you're not using Zoom, you're not using Skype, you're not having to phone people.
Expand your market reach, automate customer. I can't believe this doesn't exist already. Yeah, and then what is it? Personalize your message, then monetize conversations. All right. Maybe I'm just being cynical here, but I think the marketing person should be fired on this one. That's pretty lightweight, if you ask me, as far as a description. Total lightweight.
So I've not used the product, but let me throw my spin on it, how I would do this, right? To be clear, I've not used the product.
Okay.
Engaging with customers. If we had
I feel bad. I feel bad. I'm asking people to get fired.
Engaging with customers. If there's a seamless way to engage with customers, we covered it last week. Let me just pull it up here from Outplay, where they had a link where you could jump into a live conversation. Vimsy from Outplay reached out. He dropped me a message on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, just saw a YouTube video on This Week in Sales. I'm with Outplay. Thanks for taking it out." And he's connected with us, and so maybe I'll get a demo of that because I think that was a really cool feature. But go back to CM.com.
He did want to chat. He reached out to me because I kept hitting on the word magic. Remember the magic chat box? If you don't know what we're talking about, check out the last episode. Yeah. Anyway,
I'll link to the last episode in thisweekinsales.com. But if I was doing this myself, if I was using these steps, if you can engage with customers, seamless platform, cool. Rather than using Zoom, rather than using 20 different technologies, plugging everything in to get customer intelligence, conversation intelligence. If they can do all that in one platform, great. Then if they can use that data to expand your market reach, perhaps they've got a database of customers or a database of contacts. They know you spoke to this person. Well, that person is like this person. So maybe they can use that data internally to expand the market and perhaps give you some potential options for leads on the back of that. If they can then automate customer service. So perhaps I want to speak to a salesperson at this point, or you do your outbound prospecting. Now I need customer service. I want to know product features and benefits that you don't really necessarily need a salesperson to get on the phone with. If we're reducing our number of salespeople, perhaps a video can do that. Perhaps a chatbot can go back and forth, give the right content in the right order, get them up the value ladder, get them salivating at the product of making that purchase.
By the way, out of curiosity, how the hell are you getting all this content from a simple graphic like that?
Because I'm trying to stand up for them. I'm trying to stand up for them. This is what I would build, Victor.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's not what the article or the graphic has. I'm saying, here's what I'm tired of, Will. God damn it, I'm going to go on a rant. This is my rant for the morning. Look, I'm really tired of going to websites that just want you to sign up for a damn demo, right? And you try to read everything on the website, and you still don't know what the hell they do. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You read that, engage with customers. Thank you. Expand your market reach. No shit. Automate your customer service. No, I like doing it manually, right? Personalize your message. No, why personalize? I don't want to be close. Monetize your conversation, which I still don't know what it means.
Let's be fair to CM.com here, and let's bag me a sponsorship. I'm on the website.
By the way, before and I'll give you this. They were nominated as a major player. So apparently I don't know enough to understand this. But here's my point. If they're listening, CM listen. Come on, put some more real content so we can understand what the hell you actually do. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Will.
Let me just let me just run through what each of these points are. So this is just an advertising pitch for CM.com at this point, but maybe I can sell you on this, Victor. Engage with customers. Step 1. You get an omnichannel inbox. Interact with your customers through their preferred messaging channels like they do with friends or family. You can manage all of your conversations on all these different channels in one place.
Nothing new. Next.
Expand.
Nothing new.
Okay, expand your market reach. Connect once, communicate forever. Easy and cost-effective solution to reach your audience. So it includes SMS, voice, other conversational channels that you can integrate with APIs as well. So whether that's WhatsApp, Apple Business Chat, Viper for Business.
Nothing new. By the way, so part 2 of my rant. You're lazy. Come on, a better value proposition than this. Come on. I mean, it's like this is like marketing 101. All right, what we're going to do is connect with our customers, and then what we're going to do, engage. Where do we engage? Wherever they want to engage, we're there for them. Then we're going to try to expand. Once we establish, there's the acquisition, there's the retention, then let's expand, and let's make them advocates of our product, and that's how we'll scale our business. Jesus. Is there a different... Where's the differentiate? Okay, I know we're belaboring this, but anyway.
Let's just go through. Automate your customer service. So they've got an AI chatbot. Chatbot uses conversational AI technology. So maybe that can throw insights your way. Personalize your message, omnichannel marketing. They do have a customer data platform. So you can utilize and centralize your data. They have marketing automations. So you can use essentially if this and that to send marketing emails, content to the individuals. And then the final step is monetize conversations. So you can accept payments through the chatbot. You can set payments via mobile, conversational payments, they're calling it. The cashless trend is continuing. Create a presence on all messaging channels and allow payments in the conversation itself for the optimal customer experience.
I mean, even Thinkific, the learning management platform, now has Thinkific payments where you can actually pay through Thinkific. There's nothing original here. There's nothing new here. By the way, I'm not saying they don't have a product. I am saying is that this is just messaging laziness. Just laziness. It's just like, I can't even tell why you're different. What's your value proposition? Like, why should I buy yours over somebody else? You just said everything everybody else said. I think we should leave CM alone. I'm done with CM. Maybe I'm just irritated by them or something.
Okay. Well, with that, we'll try to take us on to the next topic here, Victor, about Logitech and Logitech sales. So crap, bloody hell.
We probably lost a couple of sponsors on that one. Anyway.
Oh, man.
All right, Logitech sales rise 66% on high demand amid work from home activity, according to Reuters. Computer peripherals maker Logitech said it was seeing no let up in demand from the stay-at-home workers after reporting high operating income and sales at the start of its 2022 business year. I think they started in the middle of the year. Sales rose 66% to $1.3 billion during the 3 months to the end of June. Listen to this, up $792 million. That's like close to $1 billion from the year earlier. Last part, trends like working from home and the rise of online gaming, that's why I thought I'd throw that out for you, continue to fuel Logitech's performance as it lapped tough comparisons and last year's pandemic-boosted sales. What do you think of this one? I think this was interesting.
I think this is going to continue. And I theorize it's continuing because at first everyone's like, right, buy a cheap, crappy mouse keyboard. I need a webcam. Just buy whatever's cheapest on Amazon. Oh, nothing's in stock. Webcams literally were not on stock for 6 months because obviously the supply outstripped the demand, outstripped the supply. And now everyone's like, oh, I'm actually working from home now. I'm probably going to buy a nice mouse and keyboard. I have like £100 mouse and I spend so much time in front of the computer that I get essentially the beginnings of wrist and finger and hand problems because spend so much time typing. So I've invested into like the more ergonomic side of things, and they're expensive. So that's they're almost double dipping in what they're providing for people. Now, are people going to go back to the office? Probably not. And so things are going to break. So you're going to need even more of them over time, and especially if you can spend the company's money, not your own. If you've got a bit of a like a stripe end kind of thing to set up at home. I know Salesforce did this to give everyone like $1,000 or whatever it was to get set up from home. Makes total sense.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how we're watching what other people are doing. Like I watch what you do, you watch what I do, we watch what other people are doing, and you kind of, I don't know if it's peer pressure, but you feel like you need to level up your game. You know, especially on the video side, the audio side. But you pointed out something interesting. I think it's great. Is that the ergonomic side of comfort and working from home and investing in that expensive chair, that expensive mouse, all worth it, man. These are great industries.
The only thing I've not invested in is a decent chair. Is it Herman Miller? I think that's like the one everyone goes for, but they're like $2,000. That's what I need to get, but I'm too tight to pay for it. Does it make a difference?
Well, what I invested in was not for, I got an ergonomic chair for sitting. I think it was like $700-800, but I bought a zero gravity chair. And it was like $3,000. And dude, it's like a Maserati, man. It's like you sit in there, you could tilt to zero gravity, right? It's got a massager in there, like a real nice one, not one that kills you and it's a torture chamber, right? But it's got heat, the whole bit, man. You fall asleep like a baby. So if you need some good sleep, oh, that's perfect. So
Victor's balling when he spends $3,000 on a chair, and it's not even an ergonomic chair for doing work, which it was
Victor, just
Victor, Mr. Like, what was the show called that you did?
Life or Debt.
Mr. Victor, Life or Debt, drive a reasonable car, don't waste your money on shit. As a $3,000 zero gravity chair.
Yes.
Does it hold a beer? Does it have a cooler for a beer on the side of it as well?
No. It's just it's a nice chair. By the way, I resisted buying it, but I like to relax a lot when I read, and so I think it's become a nice chair to relax and sleep. My wife doesn't like when I sleep it's like in a sitting position, because blood doesn't rush to your brain, blah, 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 blah. So she wanted me to be zero gravity, horizontal. So it was worth it. By the way, I did think about it for like 2-3 years before I actually pulled the trigger on this. So
I thought you were going to say lie flat, blood flow to the brain. I thought there was going to be some comments in there about growing your hair back.
No, maybe it could happen.
Okay, well, let's move on from that. Let's get into some sales training news. This is from LinkedIn, news.linkedin.com, and this is entitled "Reskilling and Upskilling is a top priority for L&D learning and development pros globally." So I'm quoting here from the article. LinkedIn Learning released its 5th annual Workplace Learning Report, highlighting new trends for the state of learning and development industry, which is what we're in, I guess, and this content, this podcast is part of. The skills needed for the new world of work and the learner engagement in hybrid workplaces. Blah, 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 blah. There's a few interesting points here. And I've pulled two ends of the scale. I've pulled from the C-suite and I've pulled Gen Z as well. So from the C-suite, 63% of L&D pros globally agree that L&D, learning development, has a seat at the executive table, up from 24% in March 2020, I guess the year prior. Is that true? Should there be a chief learning and development officer in large organizations, Victor?
Yes, especially now because the problem is retention, right? Keeping people within the company. So maybe people would figure it out. And by the way, one of the phrases that keeps popping up is customer success, right? How do we make customers successful in their journey? And I think you need to have the right people within the company, stay with the company if you want to be able to scale your business and be able to achieve those customer success end goals. So I like this. By the way, it's a great data point again. You're killing it with the data points this week.
My Google skills are on point. 51% of L&D pros say that internal mobility is more of a priority now than before COVID-19, alluding to what you're saying here, Victor. Employees, companies with high internal mobility are staying almost twice as long. And since COVID-19, internal hires make up a greater share of all hires.
Love it. That's a great trend, by the way. Great trend.
And I guess this is forward thinking from organizations, right? Because it might seem, if you're a crappy manager, you're going to go, why am I going to train that salesperson? Why am we going to put funds into them if we know they're going to bugger off in 6 months, 18 months, 24 months? Whereas if you know this data point and you're a good manager, you're going, right, what can we do to get this person trained, to get them killing it in the game, so they're generating us revenue, they're making a crap ton of money on commissions, and they want to stay. I think someone coming along, being, whatever the title is, Chief Learning Development Officer, whatever it is, having someone like that in the organization who forces me to take time out of selling to develop my skills. And it might not just be sales skills. It might be management skills. It might be leadership skills. It might be presenting skills. Obviously, these all kind of fall back into sales, the great black hole that sales is. But forcing, inadvertently forcing, having time in the diary to do these kind of things once a week, a couple of days a quarter, whatever it is, I would be more likely to stay with a company when they are visually, outwardly trying to help me get better, rather than just sticking me in a room with a crappy phone, crappy laptop and say, make some calls.
I'm going to go back to Daniel Pink's book, Drive, which I think just highlights the three things that keep people motivated. And again, he talked about what is purpose, obviously. The other one is, what was it? It was purpose. It was, the big one was mastery. The other one was autonomy to do what I want. But the mastery piece was all about growth, which is what you're talking about. And by the way, there's that old sales hack joke. Why should I train them if they're going to leave? What if you don't and they stay? Mm-hmm. There's also that. Right? And so I think these folks are getting it. You got to invest if you want to keep the best people.
So that's from the top of the food chain. Now, let's look at I'm trying to phrase this up without being too derogatory to Gen Z.
You screwed yourself on that one. You said top of the food chain. Now where do you go?
Well, Victor, as your generation gets out of the workplace and my generation, the millennials, take all your jobs and start earning some proper money, we can step all over Gen Z like you've been stepping over us for the previous 20 years or whatever it is. So yeah, I'll say what I want. Gen Z, you suck. You probably make up about 25% of this audience, so I'll take it back. Right. Gen Z is learning more than ever to advance their careers. And there is definitely a gap here in what Gen Z want versus what you and I perhaps want as well. So we'll get into the numbers. 69% of Gen Z learners reported that they are making more time to learn. 76% of Gen Z learners believe that learning is the key to a successful career. They want to learn new skills to improve their performance, 83% of them, and they want to explore topics that they're curious about, 73%. Victor, in the workplace, should we be training people on what they're curious about, or should we be training them how to do their job better?
I like the Google model. I think I don't know if it still stands, but where 4 days of the week you can do what you want, and then one day it's either the week or the month you can work on something, a project, get together with a team of folks that you like. So I think by feeding the curiosity, there's a feedback loop in the motivation, which then drives higher performance. That's what I think happens. So I think the fact that we're becoming more aware of this, like we're moving out of the industrial era thinking like, God damn it, get the job done, right? To what can we do to make this experience more palatable for you or exciting?
I'm just Googling Facebook now. So they've got a similar culture. They call them hackathons. Every year, Facebook holds a hackathon, a global event, a number of offices. So there's tons of technology, there's tons of products, and there's tons of algorithmic changes that have come out of these hackathons. I'm trying to do this in real time. Facebook recommendations for products or services, something that's used somewhat frequently. If I Google something, often a Google review, Facebook recommendation comes up. That came out of a hackathon. And there's tons of hardware and products here. I'll link to some of that in the show notes as well. So I think this is a cool thing. How would salespeople do this though? Because it's one thing to say to a developer, a software engineer, a coder, hey, you got to do something, you got to write something, build something to do with work, right? You got to do something work related. But it can be anything, any part of the company, even with marketing. You could say, hey, you've got to promote, market, do something on this one day a week. And it could be creating content, it could be forming a podcast, an internal podcast, whatever it is. What would salespeople spend that day doing other than just trying to close more deals because that's what they're getting paid to do?
I mean, one is they can learn how to do, everything that has to do with sales. So let's talk about like better Zoom calls, right? Like they can work on their Zoom calls. Hey, by the way, we want you to experiment with different backgrounds or whatever, making stuff up. Two, they can work with different softwares. Hey, try this new software. We just bought a library of different software packages. Maybe you want to try one. My daughter, as you know, works for me. And so we agreed that for her growth, that every 3 months she should take a course online on something she just wants to do, and that I could just see that she kind of lit up a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I said, I'll cover it. You just pick something, whatever you want to do, just do it. It doesn't have to have anything to do with our business. It's just something that you find, kind of cool. And I think it's easy. That's an easy one.
Cool. Well, we'll wrap up with this final point from this. And this might change. This might be a ongoing change. I think this is probably due to the internet, right? We've got access to all this stuff. Your generation didn't have it growing up. I kind of barely had the internet when I was 13, 14, 15, 16 growing up. Gen Zs are growing up surrounded by unlimited content, unlimited data. Gen Z also spends 12% more of their time on LinkedIn learning, building their hard skills when compared to the average learner.
Interesting. That's interesting, actually. That is interesting. I mean, have you done any of the LinkedIn learning courses?
And to be fair here, LinkedIn are a sponsor. They've sponsored Sales and Podcast content with LinkedIn Learning and Sales Navigator. I've done 1 or 2 courses and they all sucked. So yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Being straight
No, that's fine. I've previewed 2 of them and I'm like, light. Do you know what I mean? And it was just me. But I'm sure they have great courses in there. We just probably haven't discovered them. Speaking of learning, this week, there's a company called Sales Impact Academy. London.
You've just seen my note, haven't you? You've just seen my note there, haven't you, Victor? We covered this last week.
Did we?
Yes. Which is
this
fine.
One.
We could exactly this. This is a story I put in last week, Victor. I was timely. We talked about it. Sales Impact Academy. We went over it. And
did we talk about? Wait a minute. Did we talk about? I remember we had a conversation about education and funding. But did we talk about the fact that these have all these? Look at the speakers at the bottom.
Yeah, we were talking about Mark Roberge, like verbatim.
Shit. Dude, I think I okay, moving on to the next topic, I guess. totally screwed that one. I totally forgot about that topic.
Don't just tease them. We'll give them a shout out. Sales Impact Academy, London's go-to market learning platform, secures $4 million in funding. It's from UK Tech News, uktech.news. We'll link to the article in the show notes. But yeah, jump on to the next topic here. Jump into Culture Corner, Victor. Before
I forget, though, folks, go to thisweekinsales.com, comment on the show, or give us some feedback, especially on my rants or Will's insightful data points that he's put out this week, which I think were great. Anyway, Culture Corner, we have, look at this, a robot arranges 100,000 dominoes in a Super Mario mural in one day. Article by Mitchell Clark. Now, here's the thing. First of all, they just put up a video. In 3 days, they got 11 million views. So I'm not the only one fascinated by this. 5 years of development for this robot, right? There's really two robots because the robot is fed dominoes by another robot. Mm-hmm. But watch the video, and I'm just I didn't know. I plucked this out because I just wanted to have a conversation with you about it. It's like, first of all, 5 years of development to develop a robot who can lay out stand-up dominoes. And I'm thinking, okay, who paid for this? Because there's like 4 or 5 people working on this thing.
Do you know Mark Rober, the guy in the video? Have you seen it? Have you subscribed to his YouTube channel? Have you watched his videos?
No, that was the first time I've seen him. By the way, great video.
He's awesome. So paying for this is him because his YouTube channel is massive, just amazing numbers. He's an ex-NASA engineer.
I did not. He's kind of young.
Mm-hmm.
Holy buckets. He's kind of young because he's got like 3 other engineers working with him on this project. His video editing style, his presentation style, I love it, man. It was great. But I was just sitting there going, is this me or is this a waste of time? But I'm sure there's things that are learned from that development that can be applied to other applications.
So he's an engineer, so he likes to highlight engineering, what it can do, and obviously building a robot like this, which is somewhat pointless, but does something incredible, gets loads of clicks, right? Ad revenue. That's his
11 million views in 3 days. It's amazing. Anyway.
So he also he's got 2 videos that went insanely viral, right, alongside this. One, he built essentially a obstacle course for squirrels in his garden. Right?
Okay.
Loads of slow motion, talking about the what do you call it? The physical engineering of a squirrel, how they stay flat through the air, the tails like doing all these crazy moves to create momentum, and he goes into the engineering of all that, and the physics is the word I'm looking for. He goes into the physics behind it, and he's got another one that went viral where do you know what I mean by a porch pirate?
No.
So this is an American thing. It's happened. It started to happen in the UK now. But every video I've ever seen on this is
where
American.
People steal your stuff from the porch where they leave it.
So he created a package. He sent them out to like 150 of his subscribers that were in on it, and they left them on the porch, and they waited for them to get stolen. It has a GPS in it. It has cameras all over it. It has 3G or 4G or 5G or whatever, so that the cameras live stream the person opening it, and then also there's a big spinning thing inside that throws this super fine glitter everywhere. So when it gets opened, glitter goes all over the person's apartment, house, whatever it is.
I have to see this.
And you can just see the people who got the package going, oh God, I look like a dick. I look so stupid right now. And then whether we got sued or not, I don't know, but they only show so many of the people's pictures. And some of the people are like, oh, I saw a YouTube video on this, and they recognize what's been done to them because he's done it multiple times now. But yeah, so he's causing a bit of commotion, a bit of trouble, and obviously that gets insane YouTube clips. But yeah, he's an amazing engineer.
I'm going to watch that.
We'll link that in the show notes, and something else that we're going to link in the show notes of this episode. We're going to link it at thisweekinsales.com/motivator. It's Victor Antonio's freaking documentary. Now, I've got a separate set of notes on here I'm just going to pull up because I didn't want you to read what I wanted to chat about. But a few things, Victor. One, when was this filmed?
2007, released 2008.
How old were you-ish when it was filmed?
I don't know. Geez, I got to go backward in time here. So I don't mind saying my age, 63, because it's on Wikipedia. 63 to 2007. What's that? 27 plus 7. What's that? 34?
So my 35? Age. So you were my age back then. Victor, I took away a bunch from this, right? One, you look younger and more healthier now than what you did then.
why do people say that about me?
You
It's just
do.
the
Back
worst
then,
thing.
you had this double chin, but you looked skinny. You
Yeah.
obviously weren't fat. Now you look more toned. You look, honestly, I'm genuinely like, it's slightly a backhanded compliment saying that you looked, I looked a mess 15 years ago. You look so much better now. You look great. So congratulations, mate, on that.
All right. I think I just got back from somewhere. Was it back from Argentina? I put on a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
Not much.
I'm trying to give you a compliment. The other thing was how hard you were freaking working, mate. I'm sure you work hard now as well. But the hours that you were traveling, your wife saying that, you're away half the year. I love your kids chiming in as well. That was hilarious.
Yeah. They were sniping at me.
Yeah.
They were sniping. Yeah. On video,
I love how real it was as well. It was amazing. And what really came across, and we touched on this before we clicked record today, was just like the love that you had for speaking. It was like insatiable. It was like I was getting wrapped up in how much you were getting from speaking at this event.
Yeah, that was I don't know what maybe it was Zig Ziglar. I don't know. I just posted something about Zig Ziglar's story. I don't know if you saw it on Instagram. And then I think people doubted my story, so I had to actually post a picture of me and Zig Ziglar taking a picture together. But yeah, I mean, I love the world of speaking, man. I think it's always cool because in that documentary, I think some guy came up to me, right? Some young man came up to me and said, "I heard you back then, and I started my own business." And we get those stories. I think those are the best. So it's a beautiful career, man. I think speaking is a great career, and so yeah.
And the final thing I wanted to just add on to this, Victor, another compliment.
Yeah.
The size of your freaking cojones, mate.
Why?
Walking on stage, being like, "Oh no, this applause is nothing." Going back off, getting the presenter who's teeing you up to come back on, and she's getting riled up in this like prom dress kind of thing. Yeah. She's getting pumped up. Then all it was at university, wasn't it? All the kids standing ovation before you've even said it. You said like 3 lines to them, and freaking hell, the bollocks on you, mates, to get up on stage, because that you'd like a right dick if they just sat down and ignored you at that point. Knowing and having the confidence that they're going to jump up and they're eating out of your hands. It was amazing.
Yeah, so that was the first time. It's funny because that's the first time I have ever done that. And I did tell the lady, I think I just said, if I don't get the reaction I want, I'm going to walk right back off stage, tell them to give you a better, introduction, a better reception, and then I'll walk back off stage. And she's like a little confused, I think, for a moment there. And so she went back out there, and then, I came out the second time. I just did this at Outbound again, only for the second time. I literally just did this last month. And I came out, and there was like this tepid response. I'm like, screw that. Let's rewind the intro video. Let's do this again. Totally different reaction. And it does take a lot of cojones.
I was like, Victor, what a legend. I've got one question for you. Now, this might spoil the remainder of your life in case you're like in the witness protection program or something.
Sure.
But why did you go, or how did you go from Victor Gonzalez to Antonio?
See, this is a true story. I'm not making this up. So my full name is really like Victor Antonio Rivas Gonzalez, but I've always been known as Victor Gonzalez, right? And by the way, in high school, there were 3 Victor Gonzalez's. There's one that was Antonio, me. There was a Manuel, and then I forgot what the other one's name was. And so we always had to start using our middle name. But fast forward, I start speaking. Victor Gonzalez, right? And I don't know how else to say this, so I'm just going to be blunt about it. I was introduced as, because they hear the name Gonzalez. It's such a Hispanic name, right? And I've been introduced as Victor Rodriguez, Victor Gomez, Victor Hernandez, Hector Gonzalez. And I got that one out. And I remember one time the guy got them both wrong. This is the time I was here in actually Atlanta. He introduced me as like Hector Rodriguez. And I go, so that was a problem. The second problem was that because they saw the Hispanic last name, I don't know what they thought, that maybe I just would talk with an accent, like something like this, They would I would talk like that. And so here in the U.S., we have something called Hispanic Month. So I would only get booked for Hispanic Month. I'm like, wait, I'm American. I want to get booked around the year round. And so that was when I made the decision. I said, I'm just going to use my middle name because it's more, I don't know, it's more opaque. Is that probably a good word to use? You can't tell what it is. And believe it or not, Will, that rebranding changed the trajectory of my career.
Wow.
It did. It really did. People are like, really? I go, yes, it did. And I'm not offended by that. People say, well, that's a little racism. And I'm like, yeah, shut up with the racism thing. It's not racism. It's just that people perceive something because that's what they're used to, and they're thinking a certain way. But then, as soon as I changed, it's like branding all over again. It's just marketing. So that's how I went from Victor Gonzalez to Victor Antonio. But I didn't change my name officially.
You should do a few years with a super white name, see what happens, and just be Barry Jones.
Victor Johnson. Victor Johnson. Please welcome to the stage, Victor Johnson, also known as Brad. I mean, I should change my first name to Brad Antonio. Brad. Hey, Brad.
Brad's a bit bro-ish.
Is it bro-ish? Chad?
Yeah. Chad's even worse. That just reminds me of like a 90s rom-com film where Brad or Chad are like the idiots that the fella pulls the girl away from. A bit bro-ish.
Maybe my last name, Victor Wellington. Yes.
That's very British.
Victor Wellington. Yeah, third, right? Something like that. By the way, go to thisweekinsales.com. If you think I should use a different name, please let us know what that is. We'd be more than happy to try to incorporate it in the show. Well,
there we go. You can find that documentary in full. It's on YouTube. I've put a link together to make it easy to find. thisweekinsales.com/motivator. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And if you are a consumer of Victor's content in particular, because I've been watching your YouTube channel for years, before we collaborated, before you even came on the Salesman podcast for like the 19th time, we built our relationship there, and you still never invited me on your show. I'm still waiting for the invite. But you've been on my show like 19 times. Now we do this together, right? Before all that, I'd watched loads of YouTube content and I hadn't seen the Motivator documentary. So it's a bit of a gem.
By the way,
and I enjoyed it.
It was actually nominated for several film festivals. It won one International Film Festival award.
Amazing.
And so I'm very proud of that piece of work. And yeah, that was before Gary Vaynerchuk started having the camera follow him around. So I do have one up on Gary on that one, I think.
Ahead of your time. All right then, Victor. Anything else to add before we wrap up, mate?
That is it, my friend.
Good stuff. Well, that was This Week in Sales. That was sales legend Victor Antonio. My name is Will Barron, founder of salesman.org, and we'll speak with you again on next week's This Week in Sales.